Two Wheels is brought to you by Thor Riding Apparel, FMF Imported Exhaust Systems, and Fired Up Motorcycles in 4 ways.
Welcome to the show. This week on 2WheelsTV, we'll be test riding the new Ducati Desert Sled. We'll also be visiting Kyalami for the SA Bike Festival. Hold on tight. This motorbike is the new Ducati Desert Sled. It sort of conjures up images of Steve McQueen bashing it through the Mojave Desert on a motorbike. And when you first look at this Desert Sled, it looks like a Yamaha Dt 50 on steroids, or should I say a Yamaha XT 500 without the Kickstarter. It's got electric start. Now, a few months ago, I attended the launch of this Ducati Desert Sled at Kyalami, where they launched it amongst a whole bunch of other new Ducatis that have come out for 2017. And I must say, as I walked around that showroom, I looked at this bike and I thought, this is one motorcycle I'd like to get my hands on, because it really does give the image of a dual-purpose machine. And I think that part of the market has been missing for a long time. As you know, we've had the Scramblers come out on the market, and they're pretty cool, and I think they're fairly iconic in their looks and the way they perform, but they're not really dual purpose, if you ask me. Now the Desert Sled, I think, takes care of dual purposity, if that's a word. This baby is powered by the traditional V-twin or L-twin Ducati 800 cc's. It's got belt-driven camshafts, which have to be changed quite often. People often say to me, ooh, belt drive, you know, you don't want to trust that sort of thing. But with technology nowadays, that is definitely not an issue. It's got desmodromic valve operation, which does increase the top rev limit quite safely on this bike. But it's not really just about the engine of this motorcycle. It's the look and feel, the knobbly tires. It's got those Scorpions fitted as standard. Chrome-plated spokes. It really looks cool when you're riding along, the way they shine. Gold-plated wheel rims, 17-inch and 19-inch tires. The elevated front fender, the elevated rear fender. Extra ride height, more suspension travel for off-road use. The suspension itself, fully adjustable for compression and rebound. And just riding on the road initially, it feels quite hard to me. I don't think it'll work pretty well in the dirt. We might have to actually soften up the suspension if we want to do some dirt riding on this bike. So this Ducati is all about simplicity, really. They don't want to complicate things. It hasn't got too many electronics on board. And speaking of simplicity, it's got a single digital clock above the handlebars there. Now that clock does give you all the information you need. It's quite amazing that they've crammed all of that into one little digital clock. Rev counter, speedo, trips, total mileage, whether you've got ABS on or off, all that sort of information is on that one little clock, and it's quite easy to read. So I think Ducati have really done their homework in that department. So we've decided to invite somebody else along to have a ride on this bike as well, because he's a bit of a dirt expert. And I think Dylan Smith will have a good time on this motorcycle. That is, if I can turn off the ABS. It's quite a complicated menu to get into the ABS settings to switch it off on this bike, because I really think for the type of stuff he's going to do, we don't want anti-lock braking, do we? Well, Dylan, I saw you rolling up your sleeves there like a man going to work, and I quite like your retro kit there that you were going to ride this Desert Sled with. But your initial impressions of the bike, because I know when you rode on the tarmac down to the dirt, you weren't quite sure, were you?
In the beginning I wasn't. I've ridden a few of these type of bikes, and generally the first bit of a ride to the tar, or from the tar to the dirt, kind of feels you know what you're in for till you hit the dirt, then you've got a whole new surprise. This little bike, 83 horsepower on a gravel road, is mind-blowing. It's the first time I've ever ridden something that's as motocross enduro spec as this in retro that really impressed me. Standard out the box.
Well, it is a dual-purpose bike. Remember like the XT500s? We all used to ride them to work and back, and then life became more specialized. So you bought a bike for the dirt. Then you bought a bike for the road. Then you bought a super bike to go and play at the racetrack. And you just outlaid all of that money, whereas now we're getting back to the situation where you could have one bike and just go and play around, bit of a trail, bit of road, do everything.
Weight-wise, weight really impressed me. Just under 200 kilograms. When you get to ride most of the adventure bikes, you can feel the weight, especially in the front end. You'd come into a corner, it would literally feel like the front would wash. Funny enough, the setup, by the way that this bike's been set up currently, you can come into a corner as hard as you'd like. You've actually got grip, and I know they're running Pirellis on this bike, but you can feel the grip the whole way through the front. Only thing I would recommend on doing on this bike, the type of riding we did, was stiffen up the rear suspension. Stock standard. Otherwise, from there on, you've got a perfect toy.
Well, it's got preload adjustment on the rear, plus rebound and damping. We didn't even bring tools along today. And I did that on purpose, Dylan, because I didn't want you to ride a bike that's fully set up for the dirt, because I wanted it to be a compromise of a commuter bike and then to go on the dirt. I've got to say, pretty impressive what happened in the dirt there. I mean, you looked at home straight away. This is no practice involved here. We literally, Dylan went off the road, and we know this is TV and we edit the stuff, but you literally jumped on and straight away hit the dirt and gave it beans.
I do training here like once a week, and the nicest bit is I get to come to this track on something that's not flat out motocross prepped, and within the second lap I was having a field day on this bike. I was actually enjoying it. I think he had to call me off. I think I would have carried on all day. If I had to have a screwdriver to set that back shock, I don't think he would get me off this bike for the day, I kid you not.
We do have a little bit of a build for you at the moment, because I see the number plate did fly off on one of the river crossings, and I'm sure you did that on purpose. You were trying to shed some weight.
I heard that. So when I landed, I actually heard, and I still thought to myself, oh, I just hope it's nothing else. When I saw the number plate, it was like such a sigh of relief, eh?
Well, it's obviously designed not to have a big old South African heavy number plate on the rear.
Airbag in the back, we don't need those.
We don't need airbags and stuff like that. Dylan, just to get back to the technical aspect, L-twin, V-twin motor, 800cc, fairly light as you say. It just has got no electronics. We switched the ABS off. That's about the only thing you can do. And I think that's a plus, because the bikes nowadays are going towards all these electronic rider aids. Something like this doesn't need rider aids, does it?
Not at all. You'll find that 9 out of 10 times you try and switch off most of the electronic components on the other models, but you know, they never ever really feel like it disengages. Every time you switch it off and maybe have a coolie, when you climb back on, you've got to engage everything again. It becomes too much of a hassle, of a nightmare to try and flick everything off. With this one, I had ABS off, and that was it. Off I went, had fun.
We're going to toss a coin now to see, first of all, who rides the bike back to Ducati down there in Randburg, and maybe who gets to keep it, because I reckon you really do like this one, don't you?
I enjoyed this thoroughly. I even got to tear my pants on this bike, and you must know I really enjoy this bike.
Can we see your pants, please?
The special edition air vented.